And welcome to the Hot Bizfluent podcast, where we get all up in your business. So let's talk. Today's guests are brought to you by Crush City Realty Group, your premier Houston real estate experts, and luxury real estate agent Alyssa Emmons, where everything she touches turns to sold. And finally, Covo Capital, fast, flexible financing for all your commercial lending needs. This podcast is for informational purposes only. The views expressed in this podcast may not be those of the Bizfluent podcast or management. Don't forget to stay to the end to find out how to get some of our amazing merch. Now let's get down to business.
Hey, everybody. Here we are. It is another Thursday morning at 5 a.m. for those of you who actually wake up early. That's not me. But here we are. Today, Miss Alyssa Emmons is running a little bit late, and we are here with Josh Perella as usual. And Miss Alyssa should be probably popping in sometime in the next 15 to 20 minutes. But dude, today I told you we've got an amazing guest today. So we've got probably one of the most well-known restaurateurs in the Clear Lake, Southeast Houston area, a guy who has probably affected a number of people that might not know who he is personally. And dude, he's a freaking awesome guy, and he's dealt with a lot of strife, a lot of issues getting to make sure that he maintains his restaurants. So here we go. John Schafer of Schafer's Coastal Bar and Grill, formerly also Outriggers, currently has just recently opened his first little Outriggers across the street. John, welcome to the show, man.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Going good.
Dude, it's amazing.
Appreciate you guys.
So, dude, man, we appreciate you coming on. We know that it's not the normal thing for you, and you pretty well keep things low key, low profile, but kind of like you and I were talking about off camera, it was, if there's a restaurateur in this Clear Lake area that's had a hard time, it's you. If there is a restaurateur in this Clear Lake area that has persevered through their hard times, it's you. And every time somebody thinks you're done, shoot, every time you thought you were done, something happened. And you know, I mean, you know, you and I have talked a number of times about O2 and how O2 is about to just be closed and you were out of the business and gone and done. And here comes a chef. And now we've got Schafer's Coastal Bar and Grill instead of O2. And then everybody talks about Outriggers being dead and where's it going? When's it coming back? And then you're like, you know what? Screw it. If I can't do this, you know what I'm going to do? Little Outriggers, it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of how it went.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So
that's a pretty good synopsis.
So well, for our viewers, I mean, that's the perfect ideal person you would want on here anyways to learn from. You don't want someone who's had a restaurant and just everything was easy and everything just kind of happened for it. We want we want to hear from people like you, John, that have gone through a little bit of everything, because that's probably 90% of restaurants out there. You know, everybody kind of struggles to an extent to get through. Even if you got all your ducks in a row, even if everything's running smoothly, it could turn around in 2 seconds. So kind of tell us how you got in. How did you get into the restaurant industry in the first place? Oh, we got his sound off, John.
Yeah, you got sound off.
There we go.
We got you back.
I had a phone call coming in. You got me back?
Yeah, it'll automatically cut you out when a phone call comes in.
Nah, that's no good.
That's all good. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
Man, we work through it. We're good.
Yep, we're good. Okay.
This is not a show that is a clean show with no technical issues.
Well, the problem with my phone is, you know, I need to probably put it in like do not disturb mode, but you know, that's one of those technical issues. My phone rings all day. No, where do you guys want to start? Where do you want to kind of begin?
Tell us how you got in. What got you? What spurred you into getting into restaurants in the first place, knowing it's a difficult, you know, market to be in?
Oh, I've been in the restaurant business for 30 years inside and out. You know, I was the kid back in high school that was, you know, starting businesses and whatnot. And I had my first company when I was 18, and I was supposed to go to, you know, college and get a finance degree and go live in New York and be a stockbroker and, you know, all that nonsense. Well, that did not happen. So I went a different path and kind of got into the restaurant business. And by the time I was 28, I was working downtown at a place called Cabo, and I left there and started working on some golf courses and turned some of those things around. And a buddy of mine called me up and said, "Hey, you want to come down to Clear Lake and take a look at this place called Outriggers?" I'm like, "Sure." So I came down there, and a long story short, because there's a whole lot to it. I befriended one of the owners named Frank
Yeah.
Samperi, and Frank and I ended up. Actually, I think you know Kaylee, don't you, JP? Do you know
No, I don't know Kaylee.
You don't know Kaylee? Okay, well, he had 2 daughters, and they were working there, and I came into work, and Frank and I, became really good friends. And one day he said, "Do you want to buy these other 2 guys out?" And I said, "Sure." So one thing led to another. And 2003, we entered negotiations, and in 2005, we bought Outriggers. And I ended up just transplanting down here from Memorial area and turned that little restaurant around, and saw the opportunity on the water, and created live music and a place for everybody to come, and everybody knows your name, and just had at it, and turned into a little $700,000 business. Was punching 4 million when we got displaced by eminent domain. So that's kind of how I got to Clear Lake.
People don't understand it. The people that are watching this that have never been to Outriggers, never heard of Outriggers, doesn't understand. So if you've ever come to Kemah Seabrook, there's one icon that you just can't miss, and it's the Kemah Bridge. It's the biggest bridge in the entire area, probably the biggest bridge outside of the Ship Channel Bridge, both the Fred Hartman or the 610, for quite a while, or for quite a ways. And Clear Lake, the Clear Lake area is literally the boat capital of the world. There are more boats per capita in Clear Lake than any other place in the United States. And so we've got tons of sailboats and big boats and yachts and stuff like that. And so you've got to have high clearance. But anyhow, Little Outriggers not Little Outriggers. The original Outriggers was right underneath that icon, the Kemah Bridge. And man, any given Saturday from any time in the summer, which if you're in Houston, starts sometime around February 1st and ends sometime around January 31st. And so like you could drive by Outriggers and see anywhere between 5 and 25 half to $5 million boats, just all moored together, coming in. And you'd come in from Outrigger, from hey Alyssa, you'd come in from offshore or going out and sailing in the bay, and damn, half the time you had to go the wrong way to get through the Kemah Bridge to be able to get past, because there'd be so many boats moored there. We
had our run-ins with the Coast Guard a couple times.
Yeah. I met you,
they get really upset when you block in navigable water.
Yeah, exactly.
Slight problem.
Slight.
So how I met you is actually through Kim Friend and Gulf Intermodal Services from back in the day, and we used to be a part of the gumbo cook-off. And the first year we were part of the gumbo cook-off, Kim Friend had won Taster's Choice, and we had a couple of spirited times where we had some ladies from our camp that started a couple of fights between other ladies, and so that's how I wound up meeting John. And since then, dude, I can't stop running into you. Every time we turn around, we've run across a couple of business deals where we've almost done something and just not quite been there. And I think it's indicative that one day we're going to do something together. But man, Outriggers was tough. So eminent domain, we could go into all the details about that, but you fought tooth and nail to stop the state from kicking you off your property.
Yeah. So we never could buy it. I tried to purchase Outriggers 3 different times when we would re-sign our lease, and then we'd take the next extension with a little bit of escalation in rent. You're in the real estate business. And that I kept trying to buy it for. I tried to buy it for $900,000, then $1 million, then $1.2 million, and they never would sell it. So our final lease was, I think, Chip, I think it was 12 years, and it was supposed to end in 2025, if I'm not mistaken. And about 2016, we got the first letter from the state of Texas stating that eminent domain was imminent and that we were going to be displaced and relocated. So if anybody's ever been through a eminent domain proceeding, I've never been divorced. I don't ever want to be divorced, but it's worse because not only do you lose your livelihood, you don't just lose your best friend, your business, you're out. You start all over again. And we fought for about 7 months. We were going to close. I hired some attorneys out of Houston, and this is all these guys do. So we sued the state, and then we won. Then the state turned around and sued us. And then we made it to Austin at the district court level in late October of 18. And that's all she wrote. And, progress is painful. And there's just, when it comes to expansion, and it needed to happen, but it's kind of unfortunate how the state treated us as lessees, not owners of the property. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones that kind of got the shaft on the whole deal, where it could have been very easy for the state of Texas to have spent probably the guys I know that had to go ahead and either relocate or got shut down. The state maybe would have spent maybe 15, 25 million, maybe, in relocating all of us and then protecting Clear Lake. And Outriggers probably would have been about a $3 to $4 million chunk of that. Instead, I put that in front of everyone I could, and no one bit. So instead, just have a nice day.
I want to make sure people understand what you're saying, right? So the thing is what you're saying is outright, because you were a renter and didn't own the land, the state owed you nothing. They only owed
no, not nothing.
The landowner.
No, $25,000 for relocation expenses.
So $25,000. Your kitchen's $250,000.
Yeah,
it's not nothing. You can't say the state didn't.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They attempted.
Yeah. That's like buying $100 scratch off and winning $5.
Exactly. It's
wow.
But yeah, so it feels like nothing. And so then you're just stuck. You're not getting any of this money that they are giving landowners.
No, and the landowners made out like bandits. I mean, I think, I don't want to speak out of turn, but if I'm correct, I think the landowners got north of $2 million for 10,000 square feet.
Yeah.
On the channel, because they used me as a rentor and then as a multiplier, right, over decades. Yeah. And they
so even though they
huge amount of money,
even though they violated their lease agreement by so many years.
Yeah, the state. Yeah, because at that point, when the state, when eminent domain takes place, the law gets real gray, right? So even though I had a lease for 25 years, eminent domain can break that lease because the way the law is written is if the state comes in and condemns that land and then takes ownership, the lease is null and void. Wow. So while
it's state property at that point, not the landowner.
Correct. Right. And while I was fighting them for 7 months, they really kind of backed off and didn't say a whole lot and let us fight it out, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, yep.
So Outriggers sucked. Losing Outriggers.
No, it didn't. It was awesome. Losing it sucked.
I don't mean Outriggers sucked. Losing Outriggers sucked. Man, that place was awesome. Amazing food. And the thing is Outriggers was not really a restaurant. It felt like a bar. It felt like an awesome bar. You could
felt like a landmark.
Hang out. Yeah, well, it was a landmark. But when you got there, it was a bar with the most amazing food. Like nobody goes to a bar to eat. No. People flocked to this place to eat because the food was amazing. And you turn around and Outriggers is closed. You know that trying to find the right spot's tough. And the next thing you know, you're opening up O2. And then O2, wow, that was a roller coaster for you.
We call that the mistake on the lake.
And I can't remember timing. Did you have to shut down Outriggers and relocate before Harvey?
Right. So the timeline, Harvey hit in 2017, right? And we took on, 4 or 5 feet of water. It was really nothing serious, but because we were at 15 feet above base flood. So in context, during Ike, the water was right below the support beams on the first floor, right? So Maribel's ended up underneath outriggers during Ike. So Harvey happened in 17. We got displaced and we finally were shut down in November 7th of 18. Well, during that time period, I was building O2 Bistro, thinking that Clear Lake needed a high-end white tablecloth, River Oaks chef, River Oaks GM, right? So, we brought in, we brought in fine dining, consultants and finishing school people and trained all of our staff. And about $900,000 later, I went, uh-oh, I made a mistake. So about halfway through 18, my wife and I, well, not my wife yet, but my girlfriend at the time, sat down and had a conversation. And it's like, what are we going to do? And I said, I don't know. So we started talking to all the customers, and the customer said, look, we like what you're doing, but it's way too nice. This is not Houston. It's not River Oaks. It's not, uptown, right, post up. So I called the bank and I said, hey, I said, how you doing, buddy? He goes, what's up? And I'm like, well, I got two options. I can bankrupt it, or I can go ahead and fight and try to open something else up. He goes, do not bankrupt. He goes, what do you need? And I told him what I needed. And he said, okay, we'll work with you. So we went ahead and spent another 150 and turned it around, turned it into Schafer's. And we made a place where, the food was, I would put it on par, a step below Perry's, right? The food's still really good, but the price was high.
I disagree with you. I will outright 100% disagree with you. And the reason why I would 100% disagree with you is, honestly, for anybody that's ever been to Perry's, but hasn't been to Schafer's, you walk into Perry's and you're going to pay $50 for a steak, and that's their low end steak. And by the way, when you eat a low end steak at Perry's, you should have just stayed at home and cooked the damn thing yourself. You could have cooked 5. And then on top of that, you got to turn around and pay for sides. One of the things that's
and then 20% tip on an inflated bill.
Yeah. And here's the thing. The service at Perry's is freaking amazing. Okay.
It's good.
But the thing is the only food that I've ever had there that I was just astounded, like that I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And everybody knows what it is. It's the pork chop.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't beat that thing.
No, hell no. And so, but when I come to Schafer's, I have a menu that I get mad when it changes. I'm like, what the hell? Why did he do this? This was freaking amazing. So your steak night, steak and lobsters, dude, your outriggers tacos, they're the keto menu. You've got a keto menu to help people that are trying to stay on a keto diet. So there's everything and you mix it up. It's not, you have some spicy food for people who love spicy food. You got bland food for people like me that drink water only. You've got, everything you can think of, but then your bar setup is set up like along the lines of a Perry's. I mean, you're talking about high-end liquors. You come in, you want some Macallan, we've got Macallan. You want to come in and get a nice bottle of wine, get a nice bottle of wine. And so you have that, you have the perfect mix of Americana and nice upscale waterfront property. It's, to me, it's perfect and way outclasses Perry's in my personal opinion.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Clear Lake, if you think about Clear Lake, and there's I don't know if you guys remember when they were building Endeavor Towers and all that, right? Back in like 2006, 2007. Were you down here when that happened, JP?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So the guy's name was Robin Parser, I believe was his name. And he went and got a whole bunch of money out of New York, a bunch of bonds out of Europe. And he was going to spend like $300 million and create Fort Lauderdale. I learned early on that this is a quiet, sleepy community where there is a ton of money down here. And actually, I know a couple of billionaires that actually live in Clear Lake that wear flip-flops, shorts, and drive a golf cart up here all the time, and this is who it is. I mean, we want to be comfortable and we want to have good food. We want to be a regular at places. We don't want people to see us. We're not in the know like Houston. In Houston, there's that whole social scene. I've got the new Louis Vuitton, the best Mercedes, blah, 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 blah.
It's not River Oaks, and we don't want to be that either.
and we don't. So Schafer's kind of.
I think it's more about the number and the size of the motors on the back of your boat here.
Hey, there you go. Yeah,
Yep.
a buddy of mine just bought a new one with quad 450s on it. I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, you got to have the motor.
Go fast.
You got to cruise at 75 while you're fishing. I'm like, dude, I got a contender that's 36 foot long. I do 40 knots and I'm fine. You know.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we built Schafer's, and my wife and I were going to Perry's, and just like Josh said, you walk in there, it's $300, and you've had 2 martinis, a bottle of wine, a steak. JP said it, 2 sides, right? Then the wife wants a dessert that's like $19. And I look at the bill, and and I've got friends over there that are bartenders, and I tip them, like Josh said, 20-25%, and you're out the door for $300. So we were like, where can we build a place that at the time we were in our mid 40s, and there was no place on Clear Lake for us to hang out in our age group, right? So we built Schafer's with the intent on creating the cheers per se of Clear Lake, where if you're over 40 years old, this is where you go. Your husband in his Tommy Bahama shorts, flip flops, wife's in a sundress, she's getting a martini, he's having a cold beer or an old fashioned or whatnot, hanging out with his friends, getting really good food. Instead of a $300 bill, it's $150 to $175, and you've had a great experience, right? And so
that's expensive. That's not an expensive night. Like, I mean, like, dude, if you hit the specials up. If you hit the specials up, dude, your wife can have a couple glasses of wine, you can have a drink, and still walk out easily under $150. If you go in for specifically like taco night or date night, something like that. Well, date night's usually $50 a plate, but still, you're gonna have steak and lobster on date night. So
yeah, well, and the cool thing about Schafer's, a lot of people don't realize, is we don't market, we really don't advertise Schafer's. It was built through word of mouth, and the reason why we did that is, like JP, you've done it. You've brought your family in here numerous times. If you like what you see and you like where you are, we ask you to go tell your friends and your family to come join you next time you come in. And so that word of mouth has built Schafer's. And I did the same thing with Outriggers. We did very little marketing with Outriggers. The biggest, I guess, claim to fame we had was the best kept secret under the Kemah Bridge. And that was kind of our MO. And so,
and the tacos.
And your locals are going to be what support you anyways. You're going to get tourists and you're going to get people through because of Kemah. But those people, one, they're going to have a different set of tastes. I mean, that's something I'm sure you've taken into context as well. But like, it's the people that you're going to get every single day, or at least 2-3 times a week. That's what's going to support your business. And if you make sure that you match those needs, I think that was it's a learning lesson, and it was a great learning lesson for you. But to understand really, a restaurant is about community. It's where people don't have dinners with their family at the table as much anymore. They go to restaurants. No. So if you can go to, and you're not going to go to a restaurant and dress up anymore. I mean, you hardly even see, what's his name down in Galveston, the only 4 or 5 star restaurant we have down that way.
Vargas?
They don't even do coat. I don't even think they do coat anymore. Coat table service. No. So I mean,
collared shirt and pants.
Exactly. People here, you're right. They want to come out, and even though they've got wealth, there's a lot of wealth around this lake. They want to be in sandals. They want to be in t-shirts. I had an interesting conversation with Seabrook Marina with their property over there, and unfortunately, the son and the kids have taken over, and they put all that money into that little restaurant that's now sat for 5 years, 6 years, however many years. And the discussion, because
you talking about the one
in Seabrook Marina, yes. I actually looked at it, and one of the things that stuck out is exactly this point that you're talking about. Was he wants this high-end restaurant on the water, and I'm like, you're gonna have people coming off boats. People on boats are not in tuxes and nice stuff. They may not be in swim gear, but they're definitely not going to be in tux stuff. So and so he sat for however many years and lost however much money sitting on that property. So great point.
Right? Well, yeah, it's funny you brought that up. If you guys want to talk about that, we can definitely dig into that.
You and I have had that conversation, and here's the thing: is when
it's a great spot.
Well, so the location is great, the dock is great, the space, the size of it is great, but it's been sitting with no HVAC running and just rotting from the inside out because of it. And then on top of that, like this guy, he thinks he knows what he wants, but he really doesn't. So another real estate broker that I know personally was in the middle of negotiations at the exact same time that John was in negotiations for the same restaurant. And they're literally fighting for the same thing. Don't even know they're fighting because the freaking owner didn't tell them that they were paired in parallel negotiations.
I knew who that was, and I don't want to mention his name because I don't want to talk about
No,
it.
no,
But,
no.
I wouldn't do that. So he came into the restaurant one day and he goes, "Hey, what are you gonna do?" And I'm like, I'm almost at the finish line. He's like, "I walked away." I said, I heard. He goes, "How'd you know that?" I said, "Well,
it's a small town, buddy.
You have a white tablecloth type restaurant. I'm trying to build outriggers, and those guys, I think you hit the nail on the head. And just Josh said it too. It's like Clear Lake. The thing about outriggers that was unique, and I don't think a lot of people, I didn't even understand it until it shut down. I mean, I didn't go out for almost 3 or 4 months after I lost the rig because every time I went out, I got just mauled by people asking me questions about when are you going to open up, and some people even cried, because what outriggers was like the social fabric of Clear Lake. It didn't matter if you had $200 million in the bank or $200 in the bank, you were welcome at outriggers as long as you behaved. You kept a level of class. You didn't use a ton of foul language. Where if there's a bunch of kids around, hey, quiet down. Let's be professional.
Right.
But everybody, you were welcome there. I saw guys that would go out fishing. I'd get to work at 8:30 in the morning, and I've got a Haney worth $100,000 next to a blue wave that's beat up, that's 12 years old, that's probably worth $15,000. And those guys are actually chatting it up while they're cleaning their fish they caught down the bay, right? And then next thing I know, it's 11 o'clock and they're sitting down at the hula bar and they're buying each other Budweisers and sharing oysters. And they talk for an hour and a half. And that's the kind of, experience you got at Clear Lake, or excuse me, at Outriggers. And it was like I said, it was the social fabric. So when we got shut down, everybody lost their local pub per se. If that kind of, I guess that's a great analogy. If I could explain it, like one of my buddies up in London would say. And it was really sad. So trying to recreate that on Clear Lake, we were going to do that in the marina, but the ownership, they were concerned about music, which you have to have. They were concerned about the traffic that was going to be in their marina. You have to have traffic to generate gross revenue. It was a $2.5 million leasehold improvement build, including a parking lot that was 90,000 square feet to park 250 cars. Right.
Yeah.
And then like JP said, once you went inside, the one thing that they did do, now the floors weren't in the best of shape, but they had 3 dehumidifiers in the building. So when you went in, everything was still had a nice touch of yellow to it and hadn't turned all gray, which was good. But I mean, JP, construction, it is 150 on the AC. Yeah. You got to insulate all the walls, dry them in, floors, kitchen, blah, 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 blah. It ended up being about a $3.5 million deal.
No. Yeah, to build a commercial kitchen, even a small commercial kitchen. I mean, like if you're talking like, let's just say 1,000 to 1,200 square foot commercial kitchen is going to cost you at a bare minimum. And if you buy scratch and dent appliances, you're still spending $150,000 to $200,000, and that's if you get rollers and you're not talking about having a built-in freezer. Like, straight up,
your vent hoods and your grease trap are going to run you probably 50 to 75 grand right there off the bat. You already even talk about walk-in coolers and freezers yet, and I mean it adds up really quick. Like we're getting ready to buy we're trying to buy a restaurant, which I can't get into right now, but their kitchen's 3,000 square feet. It's probably 600 grand. Oh yeah, it's a monster.
Oh God, yeah.
So
heck yeah.
We're looking to expand. So yeah, but it people don't realize what it takes to actually build a restaurant. And not to discredit the owners of Seabrook Shipyard, but they bought that property, the family, back in 1938 or 1939. Good people, I enjoyed the banter and the negotiation we had, but they're out of touch with reality when it comes to what's going to happen there. And I don't know if someone leased it or not.
Nope.
My last conversation
still empty.
Is it still empty? Nobody's taking it? Okay.
Still empty. Yep.
Unfortunately, man, it's going to remain empty.
Well, and it is. And the problem and the sad thing about it is that I don't think and I tried to explain this to them on the last conversation we had. I said, listen, most of your customers that you're worried about losing in the marina, because I come in with a restaurant that's got live music and cars and blah, blah, blah. I said, do you realize that all those guys that had those big boats that paid you $1,500 a month for a slip, when they came down the weekends, you know where they went? They came to my place at Outriggers under the bridge.
Right.
Because I talked to them about it. I said, we would do nothing but compliment what you're trying to do here. And you would have so much more activity in your marina because they'd want to come down here for the weekend than versus not come down here.
And big boat people, that's it. Big boat people are coming down for the weekend and going. They're not living there, you know. And your liveaboards, how many of those liveaboards do you really want? Some of them.
That's a great point. And that's kind of where we were.
Sorry to my friends that are liveaboards.
I got some friends that do that too. It's all good. And it's it's sad. So, that was the last shot that Outriggers had, was to get that location. We spent 8 months on it. Man, we had all the money lined up. We had the banks behind us. We had private equity lined up. I mean, the plans were drafted. The business plan was solid. We were ready to go.
Don't write off Outriggers yet, dude. Outriggers belongs in Seabrook. It was born in Seabrook and it belongs there. I'm going to tell you something. I should hopefully sometime the next week or so, I should get my interview for Seabrook EDC. And I don't know if you know this or not, but come January of next year, I'm running for city council for Seabrook. You belong in Seabrook. So whatever
there's going to be some changes coming. We've got a little more aggressiveness in businesses.
I will say this to Seabrook's credit. I mean, we've not had the best relationship during the eminent domain. The city managers and the mayor, and it got a little rough. I'm not going to say that it didn't, because it was, I was fighting for my people and my livelihood. So, I'm Italian, so I get a little fired up every once in a while. However, if you look at Seabrook, every time I go into Seabrook to talk about doing Outriggers, extremely open to anything I wanted to do. But the biggest challenge that I think anybody that wants to do any development down here in Seabrook, El Lago, Clear Lake Shores, Nassau Bay, anything that has to do with the water, we're going to have to figure out a way. Someone that has a much higher pay grade than us is going to have to talk to FEMA, because the new FEMA regulations on doing anything below base flood level, you can't get anything built. And what I mean by that is
that's actually been proven not true. And so there's a couple things that so even we won't go deep into the city politics stuff, but the city of Seabrook wanted to build restaurants down at the fishing area on Main Street, right? And everybody said, no, you can't do that. FEMA said you can't build restrooms below BFE. And that's actually not true. You can build them below BFE, but you have to understand that they're 100%, anything built below BFE is 100% uninsurable, period. And so if you have to get
when did you hear that? Because when I was in the meeting with the city manager,
we've been going through it.
Yeah,
I was in there with everybody, and they told me absolutely not, John. Now, part of that may have been, how do I say this nicely? Part of that may have been because of the cavalierness of some business owners that are currently residing in Seabrook right now that ticked off the entire city during COVID.
So those guys are part of the biggest reason why I'm running, because the current city council and mayor are very, very prone to continue to push tax dollars onto the citizens of the Seabrook. They would much prefer to raise the taxes on your residents than you would promote businesses. They try to say that they're not
economic development.
Yeah. So,
we've been working on a report for them for 2.5 months, and I just got another good little bit of information to put into that. But we're working on it. We're working on it.
And so I've got. Do you know who Angela Frederick is?
No, I don't think so. If I saw her, I recognize her.
All right, so she's the she owns a couple strip centers. She owns the strip centers that Texas Huddle is in.
Okay.
Webster.
They've had it rough. Those poor guys, man. Ooh.
So they're gone. They're gone. The new ones, the new people that bought it out, they bought out everything. They bought out the LLC. They bought out the lease. They've got everything. And the new guys are doing freaking amazing. But anyhow, she has a couple, she's got a shopping center in Seabrook as well, right in front of the Seabrook Towers. And so I've done business with her and her property manager before. They're in support. They've had some pretty strong issues with Seabrook. A couple other business owners. Seabrook is a city of no when it comes to business right now, and that's got to change. And so let's see what happens next year. Let's just
I hope they do something because, a good friend of mine, Donna Rogers, she's the mayor of Webster and also the president of EDC over there. And she's freaking
awesome. Freaking awesome.
I love her to death.
Yeah, Webster's doing some great stuff.
Webster's about to be on the map, man. What they're doing over there at Great Wolf Lodge and all that. We went and looked at all that, and I couldn't believe they wanted $40 a square foot. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. What? I'm gonna pay $2 million for an acre of land, and then I gotta put another $3.5-4 million in it. She goes, sorry, John. I was like, can you help me? She goes, not on this one.
Nope.
So her honesty was great, but it is. But so the point I'm getting to is like when they built that bypass on NASA off 45, right? And it went around Webster, that whole area kind of died. And so she put some economic development money in to go redo. Have you been down there in the whole new main lanes and all that? Looks fantastic.
Oh, dude, all of it. Bro, it's great.
It's great. Yeah, they redid the roads and all that. So here's the thing about Seabrook, and I tried to explain this to the city forefathers as the road was coming through 146 expansion. I said, you guys need to make a choice here because the Fortune 500 have left. And this whole, roundabout deal you built with CVS and AutoZone, you're going to have this mall area and a big blah, 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 blah. Well, that has not transpired in 7 years. And I said, furthermore, let's face it, what would that be? If you're going to be, east of 146, it's getting it's rough. There's no infrastructure over there. You don't have tax dollars. Shoot, my water bill's $150. And my property tax on my house are almost $10,000. Prior to 146, there were like $5,000. So, and we've got all the green spaces and the most parks and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, that's great. You can have all that nonsense, but who gives
the deer and the birds don't pay the taxes.
Exactly. At the end of the day, if you don't have economic development and you don't have a tax base, you're not going to have a city. And, we're going through some of that down here with Clear Lake Shores right now that, that's a whole nother conversation.
That's another ball of wax. Yeah, man. When a city starts buying land on 146, they're worried about, a McDonald's trying to come in and buy something, and they don't want that. They're trying to preserve their landscape by purchasing land. But we'll leave that one alone. So
I hope you guys can make change.
you've had obviously a ton of things go on and throughout your career here. What is the one thing that stuck out that you really truly learned from that you could kind of pass on to someone who's either let's phase it into two things. One, for someone who's in the restaurant industry that's hurting and just trying to figure things out, some advice for that. And then someone who may be thinking about getting into the restaurant business. What would you tell those two people?
All right, let's take the second one first. The second one is if you want to get in the restaurant business, don't.
Don't.
And look, and I say this because, so I actually have a story that backs this up. So in 2007, when we were going through the election and I saw Obama was about to win, I got extremely nervous because prior to Obama's election, most kids grew up in a household where work ethic, punctuality, pride in what you do, hard work, respect for your fellow employees, respect for everyone else, right, meant something, and you respected authority. When Obama got elected, his platform was, we're going to change the world. You now matter. These rich people, blah, blah, blah. And he spun this story. And all of a sudden, I saw the kids were clapping when he got elected, and the entire workforce started to change. So when that happened, the restaurant business took it on the chin for the first time. Because let's face it, I mean, we're not hiring postgraduate, college degreed individuals that, that have a family of two and a dog and a 4-bedroom house and, right. So they're $2.13 an hour. They're living on tips. They probably come from broken homes. Some of them have
I want to
drug
make sure
problems.
$2.13 an
So-
hour, right? That's their minimum wage, is $2.13 an hour.
Right.
That's why
but
they
let-
survive on
let's-
tips, people. No, I mean,
right,
that's why
yeah,
they make tips.
They make
If you
between
go to a
20 and
restaurant-
$25 an hour with tips. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Tip your people.
But if you plan on going to a restaurant and you've got enough money to pay for your $20 burger and that's it,
Mhm.
eat at home. Go to McDonald's. Don't go to a restaurant.
Exactly.
That server
Yeah.
makes his money off of what you buy.
Exactly. And I had a big to do on Saturday night that we'll talk about another day when I see you. And it got a little heated because I was trying to protect my employees. But
Yep.
back to Obama. So when he got elected, the restaurant business changed, right? So we had to pivot. We had
Yep.
to figure out, okay, what's going on? And then about 2010, 2013, you had these companies coming out of California, and it was, hey, we're going to go ahead and teach you how to deal with the millennials. You know, it's okay to have purple hair, and it's okay to have tattoos that sound, you know, and your ears piercing, your nose hook hanging out, and all this, you know, different stuff because I'm an individual and I have rights. Well, when we put a job application out, you came and took the job. Your job is to abide by our dress code, our code of conduct that our customers want to see. It's not about you. You don't have an opinion.
Right.
If you want to have an opinion, go be your own boss. Go do what I've done. Go take on millions of dollars in debt. Pay it all down. Don't sleep at night.
Right.
Don't buy your wife a Christmas gift because you're worried about making payroll. Do those things. Right. So then we had to shift through all that. And then the one that really got me, I went through the eminent domain, and that one hurt. COVID. Anybody that's been in the restaurant world that I know, and I'm talking about guys that are 70, 80 years old that I call my gray hairs, right, that I talk to, they had never seen something like this. The amount of pivoting, perseverance, and backbone you had to have to get through that period changed me forever as a businessman. It changed me forever as an employer of 65 employees. Right now I'm at 72, and watching what they were facing and looking at me with just hands in the air, because it's not like they can just go leave the industry and go get a job. Now we've had a 25% attrition rate since COVID, because let's face it, when you shut us down for 6 months, we're a pretty resilient group of people, right? We can get by for 6, 7 weeks, 8 weeks. We're going to find a way to pay rent for the next month. We're going to find a way to make the car note, right? We're going to stick with it, right? We're going to eat. We may be going to mom and dad's house, raiding the fridge, but we're going to eat. But after COVID, everything changed, right? And so for me, learning to pivot and then also understanding your business model and then having to change and adapt on a weekly basis was the biggest change I felt during COVID that I've seen in my career. And then of course, you know, the floods and all that kind of stuff. But that was a rough one. That was a game changer for anybody. And if you were in the restaurant business, you know what I'm talking about. You know, we had COVID go through our restaurant probably 2 or 3 times, you know, within like a 6 or 8 month period. And our standard practice was, okay, you're sick, fever, you stay home, do not come to the restaurant. You know, after 10 days, take your temperature. You know, I went and talked to a bunch of my buddies in the medical industry, and they're like, look, John, for 7 or 8 days, if the fever broke, they're good, but still keep them home for another 7 days and then come back to work because you're not contagious anymore. But that whole fear that was created during COVID,
unprecedented. It was unprecedented prior to COVID.
Nope. And I will say this, and I think everybody that's in the restaurant business can attest to this, that was an owner. And I usually don't stand up for the United States government very often. What they did for us when they came off the bench and they created the PPP and they let us get those EIDLs, which I'm still paying off right now, it saved us. I would be out of business right now without those loans. And so,
100%.
You know, now, was there a lot of abuse that was taking place? We can talk about that till the cows come home. And that's a lot.
It's a government program. If it's a government program,
Exactly.
they're going to abuse it.
Yeah, but yeah, that was a big deal. So COVID was a big pivoting, and you had to learn how to manage. You had to, if you didn't have empathy, you had empathy when that was over, right?
And if you didn't, you're not in business.
Exactly. And so for me, one of the things we did is, did we always play by the rules during COVID? I'm not going to say we did. You know, anybody who knows me knows that I'm a bit of a maverick. But at the end of the day, I had to protect my employees. I got closer to my employees during COVID because I had to go stand up for them because the government was wanting to basically just shut us down. and
Right.
I had to fight for them. So there was an employee owner relationship that had changed at that point through COVID. So, you know, it was just tough. And it hasn't been a lot of fun. I mean, I lost outriggers in 18, COVID in 20. We just had a couple hurricanes. I mean, this summer's been brutal. I had 2 hurricanes within 10 days of each other, cost me almost $200,000 to shut down and reopen, still fighting FEMA for that money. So, resiliency.
Yeah.
Is, I guess, the
So
best
it's
word
funny.
to describe it.
As somebody who helps people who teaches Bible stuff is one of the things I always laugh about is I always tell people, I said, the only thing, I don't read the King James version of Bibles. It's like, but the only thing that I like about the King James version is they call patience long suffering. And so I always tell people, I'm like, don't pray for patience, because in order to get patience, you have to have some long suffering. So
hey, listen,
don't do
this
that.
is what I say, JP. I've been talking to everybody over the summer, and I said, look, I'm done with the days of building character. The lessons are over.
You think.
Oh, yeah, right.
So if you're done with lessons, you're done with lessons of building character. You've opened Schafer's, you've got the Outriggers taco truck, recently Little Outriggers Hula Bar and Grill. Where are you going from here? What's next?
Great question.
He can't
that
talk
you can
about
share.
it.
That you can share.
Okay. So,
you've got so much going on.
We can't get a breaking story on this podcast,
right?
Well, you know what? I'm under 3 different non-disclosure agreements, so I really can't say a whole lot.
No worries.
However, I can say this: there is a very good likelihood that there's going to be another Schafer's built on the north side of the lake.
Awesome.
Okay, it's a big enough location where I can run a catering operation out of it, and I can have a really great restaurant that is needed in the area.
Yes.
We're also in negotiation to buy another restaurant. It's a big one. It's local. It's in the area. But we're kind of keeping that quiet, and we're active, and JP, you and Josh, and Alyssa, I'm looking to go take Little Outriggers. You had mentioned a second ago. That concept's going to work. It's got legs. I mean, it's a great little spot. It's packed. Yeah, it is. People enjoy it. Acoustic act, 22-item menu, ice cold beer, frozen drinks, 21 TVs with NFL Sunday ticket and all that, and little girls running around in Daisy Dukes, with Vans on with a little Outriggers shirt, kind of reminiscent of the Hula Bar back in the day. And it's clean, and we don't touch the girls. Watch what you say. Keep it clean. But that little concept could go to Kingwood. It can go to the Woodlands. It can go to Sugarland. And you don't need a big spot. Yeah. You're talking 2,000 to 3,000 square feet, $500,000 build. You're up and running. So if you see me,
and I like that you touched a couple of times on clean. And I mean, I am in my parenting era right now, and I did go to a restaurant recently on the lake, and I mean, we showed up a little before lunchtime, so there wasn't anybody there. They were just jamming out to their music, and I had to walk in, and because I had my 2 kids with me, and I had to ask them to change their music because there were multiple words in there that I don't want my 9 and 7-year-old hearing. No. And so I just appreciate that you've mentioned that twice, because I do feel like in my group that I run with, we don't want to just be stuck at home, because we have kids. We want to go out, and I want someone else to cook for me. I don't want to cook. And, that idea of being able to go to a fun little hula bar, watch football. My 9-year-old loves football, and just be able to go, sit there and chill and not have to worry about language.
Deal with the nonsense, we call it.
Yeah. I appreciate that you as a business owner have mentioned that a couple of times.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And that's one of the things that, I did learn, and I would say this to any other restaurateur that's out there. I've got some really good friends in this business for a long time. And I think everybody understands what's kind of going on in Kemah. If you've been down there after like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, it's not a place you want to go with your kids. You don't want to go with your wife, and it's gotten really rough. There's a certain understood code of ethics that I think good operators follow. And if anybody wants to be in this business, or if you're in this business, stick to your morals and your values. There is right, there is wrong. There is, there are good Christian values still out there. Are people going to use language? Absolutely. Are they going to say things they shouldn't? Absolutely. Are there going to be situations where, individuals get into a argument and a public place that has to be managed? Absolutely. I'm not going to say that it's not going to happen, but if you set the tone of the expectation of your staff and the expectation of the customer base with a level of class and decency, you're going to run a reputable business. You're going to be okay. And I'll listen, I'm not saying that if you ever came to the hula bar, you're not going to hear bad words, but I can guarantee you this: if my servers are out there, hey, there's a couple kids over here, can you please tone it down? And then if that customer wants to get ramped up and say something about it, then that's when I get involved. And I'll just ask you to leave and come back tomorrow.
Exactly.
And I've done it numerous times at Outriggers. I mean, Outriggers was a wild place. It was fun, but when you went there, there was a certain understanding that you had a code of behavior that you had to follow. And if you didn't, I wasn't going to put up with it. Now, there's other restaurants down here and bars and stuff that don't abide by that, and it's a problem. It is a big problem, and it needs to be cleaned up.
And
Case in point,
suffering from it.
Well, case in point, why is Kima blocking off the road? Right? So everybody's gone up in arms about this one, and I try to, and I'll say it now on your podcast so that everybody can hear my opinion about this. The reason why Kima is doing what they are doing is their community is being hurt by the behavior of a few and how they run their organizations. Now, with that being said, you also have the largest, most successful restaurateur in the world, and that's his honey hole, the boardwalk. And Tillman's not very happy. So if the business owners are upset, if people are screaming and yelling about what's going on, they need to go look in the mirror. That's what's going on in Kima. I don't go down there because it's dangerous. My wife is beautiful. I'm not taking her down there after dark because I don't know what's going to happen. And look, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I don't know about you guys, but not you, Alyssa, but guys, I'm 50 years old. I get into a fight now, it's going to hurt. I'm not 21 years old anymore.
Well, if you had to worry about fighting, that'd be one thing. But we're in Texas, John. That's not even fighting you got to worry about anymore, man. Everybody carries a gun, and the best thing on the planet is a drunk dummy with a gun.
Yeah.
So
and that's part of look, if you're in the business, I would tell you this: if you really want to turn the restaurant business around and do something, man, run a classy establishment. You don't have to have the white tablecloths and the best wine and blah 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 and the Ferraris outside and all that good stuff. Just run a reputable business where your managers are close to the customer base.
Right.
Everybody is a norm, right? Everybody wants to go to Cheers, right? Do that as much as you possibly can. Run a reputable business. You're going to have a 50 to 60% repeat clientele that's going to control your customers. That's going to maintain your ability and your sustainability to be open, and then the rest of it's cream on top of that. But just run a good show. Don't try to turn into a Chili's or an Applebee's or a Red Lobster. I mean, my wife and I have discussed this numerous times. We've got a 10-year run. I've got my plans I've got 2 restaurants now. Hopefully to have 5 by the time I'm 55. By the time I'm 60, I want to have 7 or 8, and that's it. And then I'm done. Then I want to go ahead and give it back to my employees, let them buy back in, keep the controlling interest, but let them now give them the opportunity to go build their wealth, right? Pay it forward a little bit, right? Because they've been with me the whole time.
Amen to that.
Give it to them. It's big. Pay it forward. It's a big
funny.
thing. I'm real about that.
So the thing that's awesome is it's a continuing theme here on our podcast, and something that we can't stress and push enough is it doesn't matter whether it's relationships with other people that are in the business or it's relationships with your customer base. The only thing you have to offer is relationships. The good food is just a product, but what you offer is a good place to come for people that you want to have in your place. That's it. It's relationships.
And people that you want to be around. I mean, JP, look, there's places you don't go because you don't want to be around those people, right?
Damn right.
Exactly. So, I mean, I've seen.
And there's places I go that I prefer the people over the food.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that happens a lot.
I mean, the food can be okay. No, I was there last night. I had a steak. I had double sweet potato fries. It was delicious. The steak was marvelously cooked.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Yeah, and and we had a good night last night. I had a bunch of my buddies in from Louisiana, so we kind of took over half the bar, and we laughed and cut up all night long. And it's a place where you've got camaraderie and you've got friendship, and that's in a small community like Clear Lake, when you can build that and you can do it on multiple places, you set a tone. The restaurants I'm getting ready to build on the north side, and the restaurant I'm trying to buy down here, I want to run it with the same ethical mentality of and the expectation of my managers and my customers, because it just works. And Clear Lake's hurting right now. Let's just face it. I mean, JP, you're in the commercial business. Josh, you're in it as well. Yep. This is probably the most depressed real estate market with water anywhere in Southeast Texas. There's no reason we shouldn't have restaurants everywhere, but it is just, it's in tough shape.
Especially when you see Galveston doing so well, and they're bringing, and they've gone through a ton of stuff too, but like you see Galveston doing so well, and we're closer to Houston than they are. And that's 90% of their business is people from Houston coming in. We should be, as they tried to do a number of years ago, as vacation. And it just blows my mind how these little cities fight so hard against these businesses, existing businesses, incoming businesses, because they don't fit their little niche or their friend circle. That's not the way to bring in business. So,
well, no. And I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that I talked about in all my business plans that I presented is, how do I get people to exit NASA Road and come to Clear Lake versus spending another 25 minutes and driving to Galveston? And part of that was, and I think, I don't want to get stepping on toes here, but I'll kind of just dive off into a little bit without getting too deep into it. But there was an enforcement problem on Clear Lake for a while. I mean, you had 14 different municipalities that were given grant money when Obama got into office, that they went and bought a boat. Then they had to have 2 more officers, and they had to go ahead and field the boat. And then they had to pay the salaries. And okay, so how do you go ahead and take care of all that? You've got to go ahead and create revenue. How do you create revenue? BWIs, insurance. So now everybody on Clear Lake was getting stopped. Now, am I condoning getting hammered drunk and driving your boat with your family on it? No, I'm not.
Oh, heck no.
Let's face it, when you get on the boat,
we don't need to be Lake Conroe.
Exactly. So all of a sudden, right? So what happened was this enforcement took place, and I saw the boating traffic from 2013 to 2018 when I lost the rig. It had dropped like 50%, and people started going down to Galveston versus staying around here. So again, to your point, Josh, what are you doing? We're trying to, this is a community. What's going on here? And so, part of why we had a conversation about a gentleman earlier before we came on, do I think he's good for Clear Lake? Absolutely not. I don't like what he's doing. I don't like what he's bringing down here. I don't like the cheapness of it. I don't think it's what we need. I'm not going to get into all that, but if you want to come down to Clear Lake, bring some class with you, bring some values with you, right?
And by class, like you said, it's not all white. Yeah, it's not all white tablecloths and stuff like that. And so we've man, it seems, it's funny for a guy that didn't want to really be on the podcast. And I didn't have to beg you by any stretch of the imaginations. We're good enough friends. You're like, look, I don't do this, but I'll do it for you.
I don't.
And I appreciate it, man. I really do appreciate it. I almost think that, and I told you it was gonna be like maybe 30 to 40 minutes, and here we are, dude. We are 60 minutes in, and I feel like we could talk for another hour.
Oh, absolutely.
I really like the ability to have you. Yeah, I was about to say, I'd really like to have the ability to bring you back on, but we're kind of getting close to the end of our time, and so usually at this point, I would toss you the only hard ball that I toss any of the business owners or business people we get on. And usually I ask for a 15-second elevator pitch, but you don't have anything to pitch because you're
already pitched it.
We've been pitching your restaurants. So instead of doing that, how about this? Give me the best piece of advice that you, outside of don't, give me the best piece of advice you could give somebody that's really trying to get into this business for the first time in their life.
I'm going to give you some advice. Forget the business. I'm going to give you some business advice that I live by as an entrepreneur. Those of you that are out there that really want to own your own business, these are the things you have to do. Do not be afraid to dream. Okay. You've got to see the end of it before you can even start. Then have the courage and the ability to go acquire the knowledge, okay, to go make that dream a reality, and then have the guts to go try it. And then this is the most important thing. If you fail, do not look at yourself as a failure. Get up off the ground, knock off the dust, and start dreaming again and repeat the process. Because eventually it's going to come to fruition and you're going to be a success. That's what I can tell anybody that wants to be in work for themselves. You have to have that, and you have to have the backbone to do it. So that's the best advice I can give you.
Oh, I don't think we could have done it better.
Stop recording.
Yeah, right. But I'm done. John, thank you again so much for being on our show, dude.
Welcome to the John Schafer Show.
Yeah, right. Like, the pleasure really is all of ours. I promise you. Man, this is going to be the best show we've had. And last week was the best show we had since then. And dude,
it's getting better and better.
I know.
Man, look, if you guys want me back on, just JP, you give me a buzz. I'll come help you. I'd love to be on and talk.
Awesome, man.
There's a whole lot more.
Thank you, John.
Okay,
Oh, heck yeah. Well, maybe what we'll do is we'll wait till we get one of these deals closed, and that way we can turn.
I think one of these days we need to do a live podcast when we really get the thing going over at Schafer's upstairs.
Well, actually, what I would suggest is you guys look. If you want to do a live podcast, do it over at the Hula Bar, man. We'll put you on the patio. Right,
that's not a bad idea either.
Get you guys going, have y'all banter back and forth. You'd have everybody in that room cracking up, going, and that could be cool. It'd be a lot of fun.
That would be cool.
I would be down with that. We'll have to work that out then.
Yeah, we'll work it out.
Cool.
Yeah, let's get together on that.
All right.
Sounds good, dude. All right, man.
Okay, guys,
you have a blessed day. We'll talk to you soon, dude.
Thank you, John.
Okay, guys. Peace.
Bye.
Later.
What a great guy.
Best
Always.
podcast so far, bro. like, dude, how awesome is John?
I think it's just, it amazes me every time. Like when we started this and we had the concept of coming in and doing this and talking to business owners and talking to people around the business world and keeping it very casual. It's almost like a Schafer's, actually, when you think about it. Our podcast is like a Schafer's.
Still podcasting?
We're not white linen cloth. We're not dressed in business suits. We don't need it. The knowledge is still there. And here's the thing. You're getting the stories, on how these guys started, on what they had to battle through, the experiences that they had. And man, I'll tell you what, if you ever, I'll be honest with you. I think, John, if anybody on our podcast was seriously getting ready to open a restaurant and needed some time, as long as they scheduled it, I think reaching out to John, he would probably give that to him. So,
absolutely.
But just the fact that we were able to show that story, and yeah, it's a local thing, but it translates nationally because, there's restaurants all across the world. They're all suffering from the You talked about COVID, talked about eminent domain. We're not just suffering eminent domain here as populations get bigger and properties get smaller. All those problems are across the country. And one thing I wanted to add to what he said too was you got to be able to adapt and move in the restaurant industry because there is so many crazy things that come at you that don't necessarily always affect the regular businesses out there. Chase Bank down the line. Well, that's a big company. Let's think of a smaller company. A smaller non-restaurant is not going to go through some of the same things that a restaurant does because of the fact that you've got, minimum wage workers that are getting high tips. That's unique to the area or to that business. You got location. That was something he didn't talk too much about, but I hope people understand how expensive and how much extra things you get to deal with being on the water. It's unique because you get more people, but at the same time, you got hurricanes, high water, mold, humidity, the heat, all that stuff just counter or compounds on you in a restaurant. So, when he said dreamer, I thought that was a good point too. Be a dreamer and then don't stop. Even if you fail in certain things, don't give up unless you have a bad investor and a bad partner and you're in LaGrange, and then definitely get out.
But there's a difference between giving up and getting out. You and I have had multiple conversations about opening up something with your current license and LLC. It's just because you bail out doesn't mean you quit. It just means
I feel so much success, and that's something me and Amy have had to talk about and talk through. Was she felt like somewhat of a failure, and I was like, we didn't fail. We increased the revenue. We brought in more marketing. We brought in tons of. JP didn't you come to the midget wrestling?
Like, yeah, I went to
Or did
midget wrestling. I went up there like 4 times. No, both of us did.
Well, you went up several times, but I mean, the things that we accomplished out there were just awesome and amazing. And sometimes there's other elements that you get into that you're told by other people not to do. But and I think that's the thing with a restaurant. The unique things with a restaurant, not just businesses, is you see so many people failing, and you're like, man, I know I could do that better. It's almost like a strut. It's like I can do that. I can do that better. And you can, but you just got to prepare and make sure you got all the X's and O's.
Yep. So Alyssa, it sucked. You had to come in late today, but on top of
and then you turned sideways.
Yeah, you turned sideways on us, and me and Josh were like, "That's different."
John didn't notice it. He kept talking.
So I get home,
and then we got your shoulder for about 5 seconds, and now you're frozen.
Now I'm frozen. Great.
Now you're unfrozen.
Awesome. You know what? I have a new internet provider coming on Friday.
You switching to Frontier?
I am. And because I had no Wi-Fi when I got to the house, which is where it's quiet for me to do this. And so I'm doing it on my phone, and then my phone died and overheated. So I went and put it in the fridge. and then the Wi-Fi was back. So I was like, okay, I'll get back on the computer and just...
Hey, look, do you guys see what we do for y'all? We do everything we can to we put our phones in the fridge for y'all.
It was hot. It was very warm.
One day we'll get it right. But I think it's more fun getting it wrong.
It stunk because you were really, and I told John, I was like, man, it's kind of great that we had some technical issues getting him on, because I was like, dude, seriously, man, this is going to be awesome.
Something.
That means we'll actually have, we learned something, number one, but number two, the other thing was, it was like, that means we actually have a chance to potentially get Alyssa on. I'm like, dude, Alyssa wants to like hammer you with questions. So what is off limits? What's off limits? And so we had, a couple, like he said, he's under a couple NDAs right now. But he was willing to talk about just about anything with the exception of the one thing I told you.
And we still got a little insight, he wasn't totally closed off. So that was good. It's good to know something's coming. And he's right. This area needs more restaurants. It needs more choices for good food, because
needs more.
Taco Bell and McDonald's is okay, but it ain't a restaurant.
You know what the city doesn't need? League City, Clear Lake Shores, Seabrook, Kemah, LaPorte, this entire area, those 5 cities, because Webster is the most business friendly freaking city on the planet. These people are like, hey, what do you want to put in here? I don't care what it is. They're like, yeah, come on, bring it. Let's go. Whereas when it comes to LaPorte, League City, Kemah, Clear Lake Shores, and Seabrook, man, these cities just they want to nitpick and act like they've got some huge flourishing economy where they've got spare money. Dude, where freaking Outriggers belongs? At the place the Papas own right here, the old Seabrook Beach Club, dude. Like, I mean, straight up, that is where Outriggers belongs. Giant docks.
I wouldn't mind having Seabrook Beach Club come back either, though.
Well, dude, who wouldn't? But you got to get people to stop complaining about noise at 60 decibels. We have a normal conversation with people outside of myself is 50 to 55 decibels. I speak at like 75 decibels on a regular basis.
And what people need to understand is the businesses that have the noise are what's going to draw people out here to go to the businesses that don't have the noise. But those businesses that don't have the noise can't survive without the entertainment and the vacation and the tourism type businesses. It's sad. And then they complain about, taxes going up and all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, you just don't understand. You're the one doing it.
But it's not the citizens' fault. It's the government's fault for not being able to explain it to the citizens.
Well, and to an extent, here's the thing, and this is the perfect example since you're going to run. And I mean, I know Amy's starting to get involved with the EDC, and that might be my path rather than running. But the fact that we didn't have enough citizens step up prior, and we kind of just dealt with the fact. But this is a newer generation, us few that are in their 40s that are seeing and saying, hey, I want to shape this community to be something cool, because we know
that's not true.
Seabrook could be amazing. How much? What?
So Alyssa's only 22 or 23 years old.
Yeah. So and the Alyssas that are 22, 23 years old. We envisioned something bigger and better, and I think to an extent it was the citizens for a while that kind of sat and didn't do anything. So thank God we've got some people now that are finally stepping up and hopefully changing the direction of Seabrook before it's too late, because we're on the border of a lot of different things. We've got an ocean, we got LaPorte and the refineries and the industrial, and then we got everywhere else that's already grown out. So League City ain't giving up any territory, and Texas City ain't giving up any territory.
Keem
So
is about full, and Keem is
about full. Yep. But we have some cool opportunities. We really do.
And so Alyssa, the good news is he said yes, and not only did he say yes, but he invited us to have our podcast at Little Outriggers. So you'll actually have your chance to grill him. I know you wanted to.
It wasn't grilling. It just, and I wasn't even asking for specifics. It was just because he has opened a lot, or not a lot. He's opened those three things in the last 5 years.
So Outriggers is 2012.
Outriggers 02.
Well, but I mean,
Outriggers,
Schafer's, Little Outriggers, the taco truck.
And 02. So if you include the taco truck, five, yeah.
So
since 2017, he has been a busy man in the last 7 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just are you going to keep going, or is this the
well, you heard him. You heard him. He said he wants to get to 7. 7 active ones.
Bring it on. No great spot.
Now, I will tell you too that he did inform us that we would have to wear the same outfit as his girls if we went there. He said you don't have to, but we have to wear the Daisy Dukes and the short crop top.
I thought he just said you. I didn't know he said me.
Maybe it was me. I do have the prettier smile.
Guys, it has been an amazing podcast. We hope that you guys enjoyed this one today as much as we have, because even with all of our personal technical issues and trying to get John on, this has been outside of the with Laura Harper last week. This is going to be the best one, because John not only came from a restaurateur perspective, but he came from a businessman's perspective, and he's not wrong. If you guys want to persevere, you've got to push through. And guys, if you missed anything, rewatch it. If you know somebody, send it to them.
Share.
John Schafer is a wealth of knowledge. And if you want to go and eat some amazing food, go to jlsrestaurants.com.
If you mention Bizfluent, he'll give you 50% off.
Yeah, I'll give you 50% off your first glass of water. I guarantee it. No. So, and it's a place that I go to almost every major party that my family has is at Schafer's. It's not just him. The restaurant's amazing. The service is amazing. It's a great place. Little Outriggers is fun. So, guys, thank you so much again.
Comment, like, share, subscribe, follow.
I'm always the one that's like, we need people to like, comment, and subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe.
Like, comment, subscribe, share, follow.
Share.
I feel like it's become my job now, because you forget to say it, so then I jump in and say it.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It actually fits. It fits.
Hit that subscribe button.
Congrats. We have 61 new followers. We're just booming now.
Yeah, we're actually further than that. It's 65 now.
65.
Yeah,
yep. On our way to 1,000.
Heck yeah. All right, y'all have a blessed day. We will see you guys next week, Thursday, 5 a.m. for those who actually wake up at that point. Trust me, we're not recording before then. Have a blessed day. Bye.
Peace.